Okay, so this is pretty awkward given we've just been talking already, but I can now admit to you now we're recording, I am like such a fangirl. I I am so excited. Like I was saying to Vita, I was like, I feel like Jules is the kind of guy you just want to go on a night out and like have a fun night out with. So my first very serious question is, and you're going to destroy my dreams here, depending on your answer. Are you fun on a night out?
Oh, honey, I am the most fun ever, ever. And like, if you want like a quiet night, one drink,
Yeah.
I'm not your girl. Like, I'm not. And I just feel like I'm the friend that friends meet up with for a drink knowing that it could go. Like, you could come home 2 days later. Like, I've got no off. And I often say, like, if it wasn't for my husband, I think I'd be dead.
That answer has actually surpassed any answer I had in my head. Like, you've just gone up even more in my fangirl estimation.
I'm never first on the dance floor, and I'm
Yeah.
not that person who gets on the tables, but I'm the egg runner. So I'm like, I think you should do that. I think you should get on the table. Yeah, that looks great. That's a really good idea. And then I'll sit down. Like, that's who I am on the night
You're
out.
just cheering them in the...
Yeah, I'm such a cheerleader, but I'm like, I just can't get my legs that high. Like, I'm not going to do that move.
It's actually giving Kris Jenner, you know, when she's like at the camera, like, you're doing amazing, sweetie, and you're like...
Yeah, that's me. I'm a stage mum.
I love
DP.
this. Do you have any wild night out stories you can tell us?
Lol. I mean, I've legit just got back from a hen do.
Where was the hen?
The hen was in Sitges near Barcelona, which I've never been to. Unsure if I'd go back.
I'm glad you said it's in Barcelona, by the way, because Sitges sounds like a dodgy pub.
Well, I kept calling it Stinges, and then they were like, no, it's Sitges. And I was like, okay, fine. How wild I mean, that night, oh, God. I'm a big fan of like, I always get locked out of things. So I've had to like, we forgot all our keys for this villa.
Yeah.
And we'd had a few drinks, in brackets, loads. And I'm like really good at scaling villas. Like I don't know how, but I've like climbed drain pipes. I've climbed porches. I've like got through sash windows. Like it does not faze me and I don't know why. But I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll climb this villa. I'll get us in. No probs. So I scaled this whole villa, hopped over the fence, had to like climb through a window, but then set the alarm off. Then all the police got phoned. And then I had to like somehow explain to them that I was a guest and I wasn't breaking in. And then got all my friends in.
That is hilarious.
That was legit just Friday night gone.
Oh my God. So you turn into Spider-Man when you've...
Yeah, arachnid boy. Yeah, that's what happens.
This is hilarious. That is Are you a karaoke guy as well?
No. Actually do not like karaoke.
Really?
I butcher it and murder it, but I respect people that love it. I will do it.
Yeah.
But it's just not my go-to.
Okay. You're just scaling the building.
Because I like the chat. I like the banter. I want the conversations. And karaoke, you're going to just stand in a booth and make noise. But I just feel like there's no catching up.
Yeah. I'm with you on this. So like at a wedding, I'm never the first on the dance floor. But it's because I like a little chat.
I just love the chat, but I'm always sat on the naughty table.
Oh, really?
I sit down at weddings and I'm like, great, here we go. I'm on the naughty table again.
I think I get put on the naughty table as well, but they tell me it's fun to my face. So I'm like, you're on the fun table. Is that actually the naughty table?
You're just on the table of reprobates. That's what's happened.
I'm going to claim that. I'm proud of myself.
Go for it.
Excellent. Excellent. So now that I know that you're fun on a night out, something that I'm so curious about you is I have this image of you as like incredibly fun on a night out, and you've also created this insane business, like incredible business success. I want to dive into the business more because I love that you've also like gone into knit as well. Like I want to hear all about how this transition happened. But how do you balance this huge company and being fun on a night out? Like, are you stressed? Are you overwhelmed? Like, talk to me.
Well, I think firstly, Isle of Paradise was born in 2018, so it's not new. I'm also not on my own doing it, and I have a business partner who is equally as wild on a night out, but he really does a lot of the day-to-day. I tried really hard to do the processes and the numbers and all of this. It's just not my bag. I'm a creative through and through. I can't change who I am. And the beauty industry is wild and it's fun and it's creative. And I think if I ever tried to dull that down, then I'd lose the spark of what's going on the inside. And tanning in really a lot of the time it has been about the night out and getting ready and making yourself feel better. And so if I take that away from myself, then I'm actually losing how I'm connecting with the people buying products. And that's really something that I've always tried to do, is get on the other person's level. And I think that comes from being a spray tanner and being with clients every day. That's really like how I stay true to myself. And I think as well, like, people are people. Just because a person's in a job doesn't mean they don't love a night out, or doesn't mean that they love, I don't know, open water swimming or whatever. You have to, like, there is a life outside of work. And if you live, breathe, sleep, eat, work, that's fine. But make sure you still have something for you outside of those parameters.
Yeah, I love this. I don't know whether you realize how healing that probably is to hear as well, about like just accepting yourself the way that you are and actually what that brings to business. Because I know for me, I feel like I've really been on a journey of like having to accept that, like really beating myself. Like, I remember when I went to uni, I tried to do an accountancy module. I can't do fucking accountancy to save my life. Like, you're meant to do the balance sheets and the numbers meant to be the same. My number was never the same. It was like wildly different numbers. But like, I think there has been a image almost of what it is to run a business or start a business. And I think it's actually really healing to hear actually like those bits that make you you are actually your strengths in business, rather than trying to like, I had this image of like trying to put on a suit and be like super corporate and do all these things.
I mean, I tried that, and at uni I did an accountancy module. I honestly think my papers got mixed up with someone else's, because I've got no idea how I passed that module. But I went into like a normal office environment as my first job, and I was just like, I hate this. And I really thought that I was supposed to do that job and turn up at my desk every day at 9 a.m. with my coffee. I started out as like doing PR assisting, and then very quickly was like, I absolutely hate this. And I just hate that routine. I'm really not designed to be in one place every single day. And when Ala Paradise launched, I remember the first time that we pitched to Sephora, and I had to fly out to San Francisco, and I'm sat in a room with all these buyers from Sephora. And afterwards we left, and I was smiling, and I was like, bye, great to meet you. And I said to my business partner, I was like, can we just go for coffee and you tell me what the fuck that meeting was about? Because I don't understand any of the lingo. I don't understand any of the terminology they're using. I'm really bad if I'm shown like a graph or spreadsheets. I'm like, my eyes just almost glaze over. I'm like, I've got no clue what anyone's talking about. So try it all. Always try everything, but recognize that you can't be good at everything, and it's okay to not be okay. And it's also okay to outsource. Like when we started Ala Paradise, again, we call it the cupboard days, and there was like 4 of us, 5 of us sat doing everything. It was really scrappy. And then obviously as the business grows, you can hire more heads and help, and you get freelancers in. But doing those days and realizing that I couldn't do those roles made me actually really appreciate the people that do them. Rather than just expecting everyone can do them. I'm like, you're actually really valued in this company, because there's no way that I could do what you do every day. Yeah, and I guess they're playing to their strengths as well, you know? Like, that's their strength, you play in your strengths. I love this. Talk to me more about the cupboard days. What did the cupboard days look like? Oh, right, I am going to talk about this. So we just stopped recording for a moment because we wanted to get a coffee, and we just had a coffee nightmare. But Jules now has an inch of coffee. Oh, it's gone. I've had it. That was it. I've had it. It's spilt on the way here. Like a shot. I know. We've got espresso martinis in our bag if you do want to just take things up a notch. Love that. Girls on the go. That's what I'm here for. So we'll talk about the cupboard days. Yes. Talk to me about the cupboard days. So the cupboard days, if anyone has ever started a business, I mean, it was just wild when Ala Paradise launched. And I remember the night before we launched it, I was like, God, if this doesn't work, I'm going to have to leave the beauty industry. I'm going to have to just totally start again and try something new. We had no money, but from the outside, as an expert launching a brand, we made it look like we had money. But like our launch party, I remember the night of our launch party, we did a shoot in the day at this studio, and then just didn't ask permission and had a party afterwards. And like, we just got pizzas from a pizza shop round the corner and
Yeah.
cans of beer, but made it like, yeah, we're just bucking the trend. And like people had come from Charlotte Tilbury,
Yeah.
this big party that they'd had, all this champagne. They were like, oh my God, it was like not the one. And everyone was a bit stressed. And then we played 90s music, drank beer, ate pizza, and people just went wild. Like, but you couldn't get in the door. And I was like, oh my God, perfect. This is what Isle of Paradise is going to be. It's like
Yeah.
really real and fun. And so the Cupboard Days, Isle of Paradise is based in Glasgow. And because our factory's there and my business partner's there.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was flying back and forth to Glasgow at least once or twice a week
Oh, wow.
from London. And yeah, we just had to do everything. Like, and I have no problem packing boxes for send outs. I've got no problem like filling goodie bags at events.
Yeah.
And even now, especially like working with teams, they're like, no, Jules, you don't have to do that. I'm like, I really don't mind. Like, let me help you with these boxes. Let's load this car. Like, let's do this. And I think from the outside, the beauty industry can always look glossy, but when you work in it, it is scrappy. Like it's just constantly moving product around. It's constantly like popping things up. There's always like boxes shoved behind some sort of plant in a corner. Like that's just what it's like. It's like people think TV is glamorous. It's the most ratchet industry ever, but that's kind of why I love it.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Those Cupboard Days were hard, but it's something that we all, because I think out of the few of us that work there, most of us are still with the company.
Yeah.
And we reference it a lot. We're like, you know, let's just take a moment for the Cupboard Days and how far we've come. So yeah, I think in those times of trauma and the times that are hard and you think, oh my God, I can't carry on, they're actually the days that completely make you and transform you as in your career, you as a leader, and also like just how you live your day to day, because you're like, well, if an experience arises or something's bad, you can always look back to those days of trauma and go, well, I've walked over those hot coals before. I'll walk over them again, but they won't feel as hot.
Yeah, 100%. I also, I love that you're talking about like the boxes in the corner, because I used to have a product-based company before. It was a jam company, not as cool as Tam, but jam. And it made me laugh because I'd literally be like on the tube, like I'd have a suitcase of jam with me in my handbag. There'd be like these jars rattling around. I was so been there where you're literally just like lugging it everywhere with you.
But before, I said to my friend, actually, I was like, my whole career has just been lugging stuff around. Like before Isle of Paradise and lugging tan around. And like still now we fly around the world with, sometimes if a delivery hasn't arrived, we've got cases of tan that we're just checking onto flights. But like even before that, just spray tanning.
Yeah.
I just had my kit all the time. And Tanya was just with me consistently in a corner, on a plane, in the back of an Uber, in bars. She's like come on dates with me. Like Tanya's in the cloakroom. It was
took
just
me
standard.
a moment to realise that Tanya was the tanning pod.
Yeah, because she tanned you. That's why. It's called Tanya. Yeah, that's
Tanya's
my tanning
also
kit.
great on a night out, we've heard.
Tanya has done multiple nights out. A couple of one-night stands as well.
Oh, Tanya.
Love that for Tanya.
Tanya, you cheeky bitch. Okay, so tanning celebrities. Who was like that, like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm stood in front of you naked right now. Hopefully you weren't naked whilst you were tanning them.
No, well, I have actually done that once. I have never really got starstruck.
Really?
And I've worked with so many, like I've worked with Kate Moss, Sienna Miller, Kendall Jenner. Like I've tanned so many different types of people, but it's just a person.
Yeah.
It's just a body.
Yeah.
And even at the start of my career, I didn't have time to be starstruck because I had a job to do. And my job was to always make people feel comfortable very quickly because they're taking their clothes off. I'm usually in their house, in their space, and they're booking me to do something.
Yeah.
So you don't really get that time to fangirl. And I would never really ask them about work. And I don't read any celeb gossip papers because I'm like, I don't want to know any of that. If you want to tell me, you can tell me, but I'm not here to interview you. I'm here to do a spray tan. And you actually then realize that, God, everyone has dramas with food shop deliveries and people have electricity, like things go wrong or whatever. Like, and that's just part of human life.
I know you said you weren't there to interview them, but do you think that like energy of making people comfortable is what's led to you being such an incredible podcaster and doing that kind of side of things as well?
I don't judge people, and whoever somebody is, regardless of their fame, at the end of the day, they're still a human, and I treat everyone the same, and I always have done, and I always will, and I'm not. I'm not a social climber in any way, shape, or form. I'm really not bothered by that.
Yeah.
And I think being a spray tanner taught me so much about other people and about how other people behave. And whether I'm doing podcasts, whether I'm interviewing for someone to come work with me, whether I'm being interviewed, the people that I'm around are people. And everyone's had their morning, everyone's had their day, everyone's carrying their shit around with them. And it's just up to me to just flow with that process as opposed to making everything difficult. I am very chill as a person, and I think Isle of Paradise has chilled me out even more because it's been so stressful. But also tanning before just made me chill.
Yeah, I love this. I'm so curious about this because I think I can be someone who does get flappy. Like I'll get all like, but you said it's been stressful and that's made you more chill. Like how have you lent into that being your story? Because I think there's two options there. There's one where it's like, it's been really stressful and I've become more stressed. How have you like taken the path where you're like, okay, this has been stressful, but actually this has chilled me out?
I think the unknown can be stressful, and feeling that everybody else knows what they're doing and actually realizing, now like I'm a founder of a brand that's sold in Sephora, and I go to dinners where you're sat next to some of the beauty greats. No one knows what they're doing. People are just people and everyone's trying to do their best. And I think before I thought, oh my God, everyone's got their shit figured out and I'm here behind the scenes trying to pull at all these like pulleys and hope that something works. But it isn't the case. Everyone's just trying their best. And a lot of things are based on luck, and something might just land at the right time and the right person might pick it up and then it gets going. It's not always that they've got a better product than you, although I do think Isle of Paradise is better than anything else.
But just as a reminder, it is the best tan on the market.
But also, like, it's so down to so many different factors, and you can't control everything. And, like, I think people, when they're creating businesses, feel like they have to control the narrative. And sometimes you have to be able to, like, pivot and change what you can start out as one thing and think that your brand is going to be one. And then you get to the other side of this journey and you're like, oh, this is a completely different place than I thought I was going to end up in.
Yeah.
But that's part of the beauty of it.
Has there been any of those kind of pivots for Isle of Paradise? Was there any moments where you thought it was going to be one way and it's shifted into something else?
Lockdown for us was huge pivoting moments. Like, we only launched in 2018. And so when the pandemic hit, we were still really new. And I remember having a massive panic that if people, because I always thought tanning, most people were buying tan for Saturday night. Even though I wasn't, I thought most people were. Or they were buying it for special occasions or those moments where they're getting ready to go out. So I thought, oh my God, no one's leaving the house. I'm going to lose everything. And what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And actually, what happened was IOP trended on TikTok twice. And we then started to make product on the back of trends off TikTok. And we couldn't keep stock on shelves and we had supply chain issues. And it then blew the business up, but then it had to level out after the pandemic as well. Like you can't stay at that momentum.
Yeah.
So that there was a lot of pivoting there in terms of product and having to turn things around really fast.
And were people tanning at home then during the pandemic just to feel good?
Just to feel good.
I love that.
The makeup categories were a mess in beauty, but actually skincare was on the up. But then since that, people are going back out, and so they're wearing more makeup, and so you then got to pivot back into those, like getting ready routines and trying to help people. But that's what I mean. You can't control the consumer's narrative. You can't control that at the moment after this, we've got cost of living crisis. People don't have the money that they used to have. So then you've got to then work to that budget and change your product formulations and try and help the consumer still be in love with your brand.
I feel like this whole episode is just a pep talk for business owners, like on those days where you're like, what the fuck is going on? It's like,
but every day might be one of those days,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think loads of people also think that you have to be a content creator to be a business founder. And I think this is somewhere that gets really hazy because everyone can physically post a picture on Instagram or make a video for TikTok. But that doesn't mean that that's going to hold and run your business. And I think people also think that it's really easy to be a face of a business. And there are CEOs that are the face and the CEO and head of logistics and something else. It's not always the case.
Yeah.
And the bigger the business, the face is one job, a CEO is another job, a logistics person is another job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think don't look at everyone else thinking it's easy and everyone's just got their shit figured out and you haven't. Like, just do your best and that's okay. Don't burn yourself out because every single week you're learning.
Yeah, completely. I want to ask you a little bit about the kind of multifaceted elements to you as well, because I think this is something as well that I kind of, from my fangirling, really admire, because you've got Isle of Paradise and you have the podcast. And I feel like you also have your Instagram. Would you say I know your Instagram feeds into both, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost like its own thing as well.
Yeah.
By the way, I was dying at your Reno videos.
Oh, my Reno videos.
When you got
Yeah, I love it. Being Kevin McLeod.
And the leafing around, it made me so happy.
It does have no shame.
It was so good. It actually inspired me because we're doing a Reno in Austin. I was like, oh, I'd love to do some little videos, but here am I thinking of like doing little transitions. I was like, I kind of want to leap around with a little microphone, just like.
Yeah, I think I'm not very good at being pigeonholed. And when I first started out as a spray tanner, I remember thinking if something goes wrong, like if I have a fall and I can't work, then what's my fallback going to be? I'm always kind of protecting my career.
Yeah.
Because when you work for yourself, I feel like you can't always put all eggs in one basket. You need to make sure that like you're spreading out a bit, but not spreading too thin.
Yeah.
So I taught myself to video edit when I was like 25. Before Instagram or anything had existed, I was doing like YouTubes. But from that, I was like, oh, I really like making people laugh. And I really like giving vibes out, not expecting anything in return. I just love making other people laugh and feel good.
Yeah.
And when Isle of Paradise started, I was spray tanning less and less because I was doing more business stuff. And I remember thinking, I really like missed that. The pandemic happened and my social channels changed, and I actually came out of the pandemic with a whole different job. But I've always tried to make my social channels somewhere that if people see one post, it will make them feel good.
Yeah.
And there's like this connectivity. Being a podcast host or hosting at events or teaching people, like, because I do confidence workshops now and I really try and like make people feel great in the skin that they're in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel like you just have to do one thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite an old school way of thinking, like, oh, you are an account manager, that's all you'll ever do.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you are a barista, that's all you'll ever do. Like, I'm a real slasher and I always have been. I'm always hustling two little things, and I really believe in like starting things up and creating something and moving on to the next and seeing what's going on. It really like gives me life.
Yeah.
And I think like don't ever think that you can only do one thing at one time. Like that's absolutely not the case. Like you can totally spin the plates.
I love this, a slasher. I feel like I'm a bit of a slasher, which makes me sound a bit like an axe murderer. Gives me this.
Yeah,
kind of
I know.
vibes.
But I know. I wish there was a better terminology, but I think that is the official term. Like slashing.
But I feel like it's quite a northern thing as well, though, because I remember when I was like starting my first business, I was always like, what's my plan B? And I was like, I can pour a drink at a bar. Like I've worked in bars before, and I was like, I can work in bars. Like if all shit fails, if shit hits the fan, I will go work in a bar. And if I don't work in a bar, I'll go do something else. And like I was doing all the goodie bag stuffing jobs. I was doing all those things. And I just feel like there's always something you can do. And like there's always something you can like lean back on as a plan B. But also I think it's nice embracing the slasher element. That's definitely something that like start of this year, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to embrace all these different sides. And now I'm like dipping in property a bit. I'm like doing the podcast more. And it's just so fun I think it allows us to be in our fullest essence as well, because like, I think to just be expressing part of yourself, it is just that. It's a limited expression. Whereas when you get to go, I've got a bit of this and a little bit of that, like you're in your full self.
I know. And for some people, it can be confusing because people very much like to put people in boxes.
Yeah.
But that says more about them than it does about you. But I think also, I did see a TikTok about this. I was going to say I read an article. I didn't. I saw a TikTok. And someone was saying about the Kardashians, how they always are trying different things and one thing takes off and then they run with it.
Yeah.
And actually, that's so true. And a lot of life is about throwing spaghetti at the cupboard and seeing which piece sticks.
Yeah.
And when you're creating, like your property might take off. It also might not. You don't know.
Yeah.
Podcast might take off. It might not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But unless I try, I'm not going to know. So let's try.
Yeah.
And it's the same across anything. If you have a product-based business, not every product explodes and does what you think it's going to do.
Yeah.
But you can't control that. You can only hope that something's going to do. But also on the flip, things can absolutely surpass your expectations.
Yeah.
And that's lovely when that happens. But you know, just keep going. And I always say as well, slow and steady wins the race. You can put that in so many different categories, especially in terms of careers.
Yeah.
People who climb that ladder hella quick often fall down very fast.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in a ruthless way and they're cutting Achilles' heels on the way up.
Yeah.
And they're coming down and people want them to fail really fast. And you hear it, people talk, people are like, they're awful to work with, they don't pay on time, they're not right, whatever. Whereas if you're just good, chipping away, doing your best, being a reliable asset, then you're going to keep working.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what a career is. You want to keep working. You don't want to have to fall back onto option B.
Yeah.
So just keep going.
I also do feel like with that, though, like you can just sleep at night.
Yeah, right.
Like, I feel like there's enough things that can keep you up at night without, like, being a shitty person. I feel like if you're going around treating people like shit, I know that I think there's a thing that people think they just get away with it. But to me, I'm like, that person's not sleeping well at night. Like,
I'm always like, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's something else deeper going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone's not unpacked their inner child.
Let's do some deep shadow work.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's go into the shadow.
Yeah.
I feel like this brings me on to the other thing I want to talk to you about. So, the body confidence piece has been huge as part of Isle of Paradise, but also your personal brand. How did that come about for you? Was it through your own journey of like struggle? Like, was it through the tan? Was it through seeing all these different bodies in I always think like if you see different bodies, it makes you more accepting. But then I don't know, you were working with supermodels and things like this, so it could have had the opposite effect.
When I started spray tanning, I really hated every single aspect about my appearance. And I always, I hated my body for 20 years of my life. And when you're in a place of hating how you look, it actually can be this massively, it can be very restrictive over what you believe you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And when I started spray tanning, I remember I never was really looking at bodies in terms of a comparing point of view, but I was just looking at skin and getting this tan on the skin and getting the job done. But I remember tanning a Victoria's Secret model and she... Damn it.
I feel bad I don't have like a strep sauce. I'm a rubbish mum. You know, like those mums that always have like strepsils and stuff on them.
But if I had it in my mouth, you'd hear it, which is so gross.
I'm just the mum that's espresso martinis in her bag.
Okay. I remember tanning a Victoria's Secret model, and she took her clothes off to have a tan, and she immediately apologized for what she looked like. And I was thinking, oh my God, if you're one of the most beautiful women in the world and you're apologizing for how you look, the problem isn't my body. It's the way that my body is viewed in society and also the way that I view my body. My body's just showing up for me every single day. And so why am I not showing up for it back? And so then this whole layered process started to happen for me where I needed to learn to accept, respect, and like who I was. When Isle of Paradise launched, I knew that I wanted the brand to change the beauty industry. That honestly was like my mission from the start, to make the images that people see when they buy product relatable.
Yeah.
This whole creating an aspirational place to be and look like, for me, just screamed bullshit.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling in the beauty industry where I'd watch somebody, a model on a shoot, on a campaign, I'd look at them, their skin, their face, they looked a certain way. They looked a certain way on the monitor that was flashing up for the photographer. 6 months later on a bus, that image would go past it, being so retouched. And I remember thinking, she didn't look like that on the day. So then people are buying this product thinking that they're going to look like this, but that's computer. That's an edited image that a product will never take you to. So then you're constantly in this place of disappointment, and I'm not good enough because I don't look like XYZ. Well, the person themselves doesn't look like that image. So what's going on? So that's why we weren't retouching. We would like leave. I remember like the first campaign, retailers were like, "Are you sure you want to put this campaign out?" We were like, "Absolutely. This is what we want to do. We want to show dimples. We want to show skin. We don't want the hair to look perfect and glossy. Like, we want to be real." But at the time, as a brand founder, like, I remember thinking, I really need to be authentic because it will come out in the wash if I'm not, and it will eat me away. So how could I stand there and have a body confidence brand and not be body confident? So I decided, just as a process, to start posting myself and writing, almost like treating social media like a diary, which I think was quite jarring for some people in the industry. And I think it changed. I think some people found it uncomfortable to watch, but for me, who gives a fuck? It was the best thing I ever did. And now I get to inspire like tens of thousands of people in how to love their body. And I get to teach people how to love their, you know, who they are, because I've been through that journey myself. But again, it always goes back for me as relating to people. People are people. No one's superhuman. Everyone's got their stuff. And also, as a beauty expert, you are like a therapist. You're constantly like making people feel better. But yeah, I just think, God, life is just too short to stand in front of the mirror every single morning and pick myself apart and say mean things to myself when I wouldn't say that to my best friend. So why am I not treating myself like I would treat my best friend? What's the point?
Yeah, I love this. And I think it's so beautiful, like, I think as well, like, you can feel it when someone's been on that journey versus just saying, "Oh no, I feel good now." Like, when you can actually feel someone's like been there and can be honest and say, "Yeah, actually, I picked myself apart in this way and this is where I am now." Like, I didn't realize I was doing that to myself until I got pregnant. And then it was only after I was pregnant. I actually didn't mind pregnancy because I was like, this big bump, and it felt quite like, okay, well, I'm pregnant. Like, I'm meant to have this big bump and afterwards. But I remember afterwards being in my body and just feeling like I didn't recognize it. And that was a real, like, I don't know how to describe it other than like a slap in the face, because it was like, hang on a minute, I need to learn to still know who I am and love myself in this body that doesn't feel like mine, and really love and appreciate it for what it's done as well. Like, rather than seeing it as just this like physical thing, to be like, oh no, it grew a human and it stretched this way, and there's just so many
But
layers
it's also,
to it.
I mean, I can say this is very Tanya because I've heard it so many times, that post-baby body really is quite a difficult time for women to navigate, because there's so many social pressures to getting your pre-baby body back.
Bullshit.
I used to say to clients, I say it to my friends now, it's never coming back. That body is never coming back, because your body has it's been through this whole different journey. It's never going to be the same. So rather than wanting it back, you need to accept where you are now. Because what a waste of time and energy, constantly wanting this thing that you had for a tiny window. Like, God, I can't bear that. Like, I can't bear that people have that process. I feel sorry for people.
Yeah,
because it's like, you're so lucky to have a baby. Just focus on that.
But do you know what actually was so helpful during that time was tan. I hadn't tanned for so long. Like, we were living in Miami, so I was like, I didn't need to. And then we were in Austin. There wasn't the sunshine all the year round. But tan, genuinely, why does tan just make like the world feel better? Like, you put on a layer of tan, the next day you just feel brighter. Like, why is this?
Tan is the secret weapon of the beauty world.
Yeah.
And where a lipstick gives you an instant, easy to achieve hit when you look in the mirror, it's not all over. And tan is top to toe, front to back, if you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that all over finish, it makes you look like you've been on vacation, which is like the best feeling ever. When you've been away and you're like, oh, I look so well rested. I look like my teeth are whiter, my eyes are brighter. But tan is also, it evens out the skin tone. So then it makes your clothes look better. It makes your nails look better if you've had a nice mani. Like, makeup sits so much better on top of tan. You're not having to use like thick foundation to get coverage.
So
the tan's doing it for you. So it's like, and it just takes away that like grayness, whatever your skin tone. And I think that's like a massive misconception that tan is only for one type of skin tone. It's for every skin tone. It mimics vacation, whatever your skin tone. And it's so much cheaper than going on holiday. And I need it. And it's, as a northerner, and you will understand this, it is a rite of passage and a way of life. I tan my face every other day and I tan my body once or twice a week. And I'm doing that till the day I pop my clogs. Because that is just my hit of feel good. But there's also this whole cathartic process with tan where you physically have to look at yourself naked in front of the mirror. You have to touch your body naked. So it's a much deeper process than people think. I think from the outside, people could be like, oh God, it's just fake tan. And I'm like, come inside the ashram. Like, let's sit down and let's discuss this because it's so much more than just a tanning mousse on a mitt.
I am pissed, though, that your tan didn't exist when I was at uni because I was actually going to play a game with you called Rate My Tan. And I was like, I'm not sure I can get some of these photos out. But, like,
I would have loved that.
Okay, well, maybe we'll play it in the wind down because I'm orange as they come. Orange as they come. And I'm just...
The uni days were savage.
Savage.
I can't go through my Facebook albums because I'm like, what shade have you opted for? Like, tan was not kind to me either in my uni days. It just wasn't great back then.
It wasn't great.
But that's why a lot of people stopped tanning. And actually, it's like, no, it's so different now. And it's much more pro.
It's not going to look quite as orange as the summer days.
No. Although those still are orange, I believe.
I love this. I just want to get more personal for a minute. So you were talking then about going on a holiday and we were having a little chit chat before. You spent this winter in Australia. How the fuck was that? And why? I'm going to say it sounds like an obvious question, but like, why did you go to Australia for the winter? Like, what was...
So the winter of 2020 into 2021, I really struggled. No, not 2022 into 2023. I really struggled with my mental health. And I'd always, even in school, I'd always been like, I hate winter. And I remember just brushing it off and being like, oh, it's just not my season. And then actually, as it's gone on and I've done more digging into seasonal depression, I actually realised that I hugely get seasonal depression. Husband doesn't get anything at all. It's just like the happiest ray of sunshine all the time.
Who are these people?
I don't know because I'm like, I don't want to leave the house today. I don't want to do any calls. I don't want to work. I don't want to get out of bed. Like, I wasn't going to social occasion. Like, it was massively altering my life. And that didn't leave me until we got to like May time in the middle of the year. So we agreed to do an experiment. Let's see if we go away in the winter and get sun, if you feel better. I understand that it comes from a place of privilege that I can afford to take that time away. And I still worked when I was there. But yeah, I used to live in Sydney. And so a lot of my friends are in Sydney, and Isle of Paradise is very much based on my time in Australia. And I get a lot of inspiration when I'm there. I think getting inspiration as a creative is hugely overlooked. And you have to get that inspiration when you're traveling. But so far this year, I've been good.
Love this.
So this hit of sun in the winter, I think needs to be prioritized. I think it'll change in our lifetime. I think people will recognize that it's a thing and that it's okay to travel, and like there'll be different in my brain, I'm hoping there'll be some sort of like quick travel corridor to the southern hemisphere in the winter.
Just go through the centre of the earth.
I know,
on the
some kind
speed
of
train.
manifesting hovercraft. That's where I'm going.
I love this. I do think it's a strategy though. Like, I don't understand why we have this like focus on summer holidays, because to me, I'm like, that's when the weather's good. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I'll holiday as much as I can. Like, if I can holiday in the summer and in the winter, fucking great. But like, we've got this focus on summer holidays, but summer actually is like the great time when there's a bit more sun, it's a bit more cheerful. Getting away for that winter hit of sun, I feel like it's a whole life hack.
But I also think that it shouldn't be seen as a decadent holiday. It's actually was solely based on me prioritizing my mental health.
Yeah.
And holidays don't have to always be about that holiday vibe of we've got to go to all the nice restaurants, we've got to drink all the wine, it's loads of mates. Sometimes holidays can be more stress than what they're worth.
Yeah.
Actually, it's like I'm having a mental health break.
Yeah.
And I'm just giving my brain a reset, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And like that's what we did.
Yeah. I totally get that. I definitely felt the same way living in London. Like, I actually remember, this is quite funny. It was when I was working in corporate. I wasn't earning a lot of money, but I had the dregs of my credit card left. And like all sensible people, I spent it on a really, really bougie coat because it was so cold the whole time. And I basically bought a bougie ski jacket. And I was like, if I'm going to be cold all the time, I'm going to look fucking glamorous being fucking
Love
freezing.
that for you.
But do you ever get the really annoying line like, you're northern, you should like the cold?
It's like, no, I left the north, so I left my northern jacket up north.
Yeah.
That's why I'm cold now. Even when you go back, though, people are like, you southern softy.
Yeah, I'm just like, fuck off.
Yeah, it's still cold.
I love that. Okay, so you mentioned your husband then, cheerful, happy in the winter. How did you meet your husband?
We met IRL in a bar. It was just before Ala Paradise launched, and I had a pitch to ASOS on the Friday, and the Thursday night I did not want to go out. I had no money. And my friend was like, come for one drink. And I was like, okay, I'll come for one drink. Sat down, my meeting with ASOS cancelled, and I was like, oh, well, this changes everything. And so I had a vodka martini, because if it's going to be one drink, I'm going to have a good one.
Yeah.
And I turned around to look at who was in the bar, and there he was looking at me. And we have been inseparable ever since.
No, hang on, I need more details. Who went up to who?
I went up to him.
And what did you say?
I'm not telling you. It's very rude.
Was it?
Yeah, it was rude. But he then came for dinner with my friends that night, and yeah, I just fell in love. I just knew. I was like, you are something different. Like, my love life was a hot mess before that.
Yeah.
And when you meet someone good, you're like, oh, I just need to like not let you go.
Yeah, I get that.
But I think he is like, it was the same. We say it was love at first sight, which I never, ever, ever used to believe in.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, it totally exists. Like you can fall in love just like, oh my God, who are you?
And I love that you went from 0 to 100, from like, I've literally just met you in the bar to come to dinner with all my friends.
Legit. No, my friend invited him and I was like, shut up, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Thinking, oh my God, I hope this guy comes. And we went ahead to this restaurant, and then he walked in with his colleague.
Yeah.
And I said at our wedding, be the wing woman, because she believed in our love. If it wasn't for her, he wouldn't have come to that restaurant. And she was single, and she just went, nah, this might happen, and like took one for the team.
I love that. And was he living in London at the time?
Yeah,
because he's Dutch, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Dutch, but he was living in London.
Love this. And talk to me about the wedding.
Yeah, the wedding was a moment. It was a vibe. I never wanted a wedding in the summer. I never wanted to get married overseas. I got married in August in Amsterdam. Like, it was just everything that I didn't want, but it just kind of like, I just went with the process.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
I feel like such a stalker because I definitely stalked all your wedding photos. I felt like I was part of the wedding party when it was happening because it was just like incredible, so gorgeous.
But I also said to all my guests, I was like, please don't post anything on social media. Like, I want this to be like so private.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were going to, because we did a mag deal, and I knew that we were going to do that. But I was like, I then at least have control over what people see and what they don't see.
Yeah.
Because it's a personal thing. It's really like, it's your day. Yeah. And it it's way more stressful than you think it's going to be. But on the day itself, I just didn't give a fuck. I just let go and loved every second of it.
What was your favourite moment during the day?
Walking down the aisle with my dad. That was incredible. And like I punched my bouquet in the air and people were whooping and like Dutch was sobbing his eyes out. And it was just like, it was wicked. And like dancing with the drag queen was really fun.
Oh my God.
And all the other things around it, like the Friday night, the Sunday pull-up, like everything. It was just great. It's so good. And I know there's some people who just don't like weddings and they're like, I don't understand people who get married. I'm like, it's so good.
I don't understand people who don't understand weddings because I feel like weddings are a celebration of love and like just being in that vibration of everyone just being in love and like the couple loving each other and everyone loving on the couple and the families coming. Well, okay, the families can be slightly dramatic sometimes, but like the families coming together, like it's so fun. And then it's just a fucking party.
Yeah.
Like it's all this love. It's a love fest followed by a massive party.
And I'm really good at partying. So great.
It's the party ever. Okay, I'm going to wrap this part up. But before we do, I just need one final question. So it's upgrade season. It's all about getting your shit together 1 week at a time, small upgrades, huge changes. And I feel like a good tan in life is a massive upgrade. So what are some like hot, it can be between like 1 and 3, but like hot tips when it comes to tanning? Save us from our university days, save us from the Samarits. What would be your top tips to upgrade your tan?
Firstly, remember that tan is completely different from what it was in the uni days or prom days or where you first started tanning. So if you've stopped tanning and you think it's not for you, think again. A great place to start is like the IOP tanning drops. Just 2 drops in with your moisturizer 2 to 3 times a week. That's legit all you have to do. This is bare minimum and you'll still get that amazing hit of feel good when you look in front of the mirror the next day. Moisturize hands, elbows, knees and feet before and after application. And buff. It's all in the buff.
Okay.
And less is more.
Oh.
Less is more with tan. You don't have to do more layers, like go as dark as you think you do, unless you want to, but you can still get that hit of colour. Whatever you do on the face, half for what you do on the body.
These are some good tips.
I mean, you would think. You would think. She's been in this game a while.
I think I was saying it like that because I was like, I'm definitely not doing half these things.
People do say that when I give tips, people are like, wow, these are amazing. I'm like, ironic.
Well, thank you for the upgrade.
Yeah.
My tan game is going to go up a notch now, so I'm
believe
very
in you.
grateful for this. I can attest to the glow as well in real life. Thank you for this. I'll see you on the wind down.